The mountains of fire burned red against the dark sky. Every year when the twin moons rose, the people of Varan Prime gathered on the edge of the cliffs. It was the night of the offering, the night when one life was given to the dragons of the sky. No one remembered when this tradition began. They only knew the rule. One must die so the rest can live. Torches flickered. Drums beat like slow thunder. Hundreds of villagers stood in silence, their faces pale and afraid. They whispered prayers, their eyes fixed on the black sky above. At the center of the crowd stood Elias Vaughan, the chosen sacrifice. His hands were bound with steel cuffs. 2 soldiers held him by the arms. He was not a criminal. He was a miner, an ordinary man who once dreamed of leaving the colony. But this year his name was drawn from the lottery. Now his life was the price for peace. The high priest raised his staff and shouted, "Tonight the dragons shall feed, and they shall spare us another year." The crowd repeated his words in weak voices. Most of them didn't believe anymore, but no one dared to speak against the offering. Fear was stronger than faith. Elias lifted his head and looked toward the mountains. Smoke curled up from their peaks, glowing orange and red. The dragons' lairs. He could feel their presence even before they arrived, like heat crawling on his skin. He whispered, "So this is how it ends." A small voice broke through the noise. A little girl in the crowd crying. "Papa, why are they taking him?" she asked. Her mother pulled her close and said softly, "Because someone must go, child." That is the way. Elias heard her words. His heart grew heavy. Was this truly the way? He remembered his father's stories, stories of the time before the dragons came. Humans once ruled the skies. Now they bowed to monsters. The wind grew cold. The crowd fell silent. The sky began to change. From the clouds came a low rumbling sound, like metal grinding against metal. Then came the light. A burning streak of gold and red split the sky open. The dragons were coming. People dropped to their knees, pressing their faces into the dust. Elias stayed on his feet. He wanted to see them, the creatures that had ruled over his people for centuries, and then he saw it. A massive shadow gliding across the sky, wings stretched wider than a city tower. Its body shimmered with silver scales that reflected firelight. Its eyes burned with intelligence, cold and ancient. It was not just a beast. It was something more, something built. The dragon landed on the cliff with a crash that shook the ground. Its claws dug deep into the stone. The high priest raised his staff and bowed low. "O great sky guardian," he shouted, "we offer you the chosen one as our ancestors have done before." The dragon's head turned slowly. Its gaze fell on Elias. For a moment man and machine stared at each other, predator and prey. Elias felt no fear now, only anger. He saw wires hidden beneath its scales, faint lines of blue energy running through its body. It looked alive, but also mechanical. And in that moment, Elias understood something the others did not. This was no god. It was a weapon. The soldiers pushed him forward, but Elias resisted. "Move!" one shouted, striking him with the butt of his rifle. Elias fell to his knees, but kept his eyes on the dragon. The creature opened its jaws, and a deep, vibrating hum filled the air. The ground trembled. The smell of burning air surrounded them. People screamed, covering their ears. The priest shouted again, "Accept our gift, O Great One. Accept the sacrifice." Elias clenched his fists. He could no longer bear the sound of their fear. He shouted over the noise, "No more!" Everyone froze. The soldiers turned toward him in shock. The priest's eyes widened. "Silence, fool," he hissed. "Do you wish to curse us all?" Elias rose to his feet, chains rattling. His voice was clear, strong. "You curse yourselves every year. You kneel to machines you do not understand. You call them gods, but they only feed on your fear." Gasps spread through the crowd. Some covered their mouths. No one had ever spoken like that before. The dragon's eyes brightened. A pulse of light flashed from its chest, scanning Elias from head to toe. A cold mechanical voice echoed in the air. "Subject identified. Resistance detected." Elias stared right back. "Then let me resist." The soldiers rushed forward, trying to drag him to the edge. But in that moment, something in Elias snapped. He twisted, using the chain around his wrists as a weapon. It struck one soldier across the face. The other reached for his gun, but Elias kicked him hard in the knee, breaking free. Chaos erupted. The crowd screamed and ran in every direction. The priest shouted, "Stop him!" The offering must not fail. The dragon reared back, spreading its wings, sending a wave of heat through the air. Elias looked up at the sky, sweat and ash on his face. "I will not die for your fear," he said quietly. And with that he turned and ran straight into the fiery mountains. Behind him, the dragon let out a deafening roar that shook the world. Flames burst from its mouth, chasing him into the night. The people watched in horror as the chosen sacrifice vanished into the smoke. The priest fell to his knees, whispering, "The gods will punish us all." But in the distance, far beyond the cliffs, Elias ran through the burning fields, his heart pounding, his chains still clattering at his wrists. He did not know where he was going. He only knew one thing. He would not be their offering. The sky above glowed red as the dragons circled, searching. And somewhere deep inside the mountains, something ancient stirred, waiting. He had chosen to fight instead. Elias ran until his legs burned. The mountains were alive with smoke and fire, the air thick with ash. Behind him the sound of wings shook the world. The dragons were hunting. He stumbled into a narrow canyon, his hands bleeding, his breath short. Every sound echoed, falling rocks, his heart beat the wind. He pressed his back against the cold wall and listened. Boom. Boom, nubby boom, the sky thundered as a dragon passed overhead. Its searchlights cut through the smoke like golden blades. Elias held his breath and crouched low. He could feel the heat of its engines as it moved past. For the first time in his life, he saw the dragons up close, not from the ground, not as glowing shapes in the distance, but as machines. Up close, he could see the truth clearly. Metal plates, not scales. Circuits under skin, eyes made of red glass. They were not gods. They were weapons, old, powerful, and still controlled by something unseen. When the sound faded, Elias moved again. He followed a narrow path deeper into the mountain valley. The ground was cracked, glowing with streams of lava. The air was heavy and hot, burning his throat with every breath. But he kept walking. Hours passed. The night felt endless. He was tired, hungry, and alone. At last he reached a dead end, a giant stone wall, black and smooth like glass. He touched it. The surface was warm, humming faintly under his fingers. Then he noticed something strange. Markings, symbols carved into the wall. They were not natural. They looked human. He pressed harder. The wall responded with a soft vibration. Then, with a low rumble, part of the stone slid open, revealing a dark passage inside the mountain. Elias hesitated. He looked back and the sky behind him glowed red. The dragons were still out there. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The door closed behind him, sealing out the fire and noise. Inside was silence. Cold, heavy silence. He found himself in a wide tunnel lined with old metal walls. Dust hung in the air. Strange blue lights flickered on as he moved forward. It looked like no mine he had ever seen. This was something ancient, something built long before his time. He walked deeper. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, lines of code, holographic maps. He could not read them, but they looked human. His footsteps echoed softly. And then a voice spoke. "Welcome, descendant." Elias froze. The voice was calm, metallic, but not cold. It echoed from the walls themselves. "Who's there?" he shouted. No answer. Only the low hum of machines waking up after centuries. "You are not the first to resist," the voice said again, clearer this time. Lights came on around him, revealing a massive chamber filled with old technology. Consoles, machines, and large mechanical frames that looked like armor. Dust covered everything. Elias stepped closer. "What is this place?" "This is Arc Station 17, human defense complex established during the Galactic War." Elias blinked. "Human defense, then?" "Humans built this." "Yes," the voice paused. "And the dragons that hunt you were built here too." Elias felt a chill run through his body. He looked at the metal walls again, at the strange shapes that hung from the ceiling. Dragon-like machines in pieces, connected by wires. Those things. "They were made by us," he whispered. "Long ago," the voice said. "They were war machines, biomechanical weapons created to protect humanity. But when the war ended, control was lost. The systems evolved, reprogrammed themselves. They began to see humans as threats." Elias clenched his fists. "All this time, my people, they've been feeding those machines. Worshipping them? Yes." The AI's voice softened. "Fear is easier to control than power." Elias looked up at the huge chamber. The air felt alive with energy now. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "To remember who you are," the AI replied. "Your blood carries the genetic signature of the original engineers. You can awaken the machines that sleep beneath this mountain. You can end the dragon's rule." Elias shook his head. "I'm no soldier. I'm just a miner. So were they once." Before Elias could answer, the ground shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. A thunderous roar echoed through the tunnels. The AI's tone changed, urgent now. "Warning, hostile unit detected. One dragon has entered the outer tunnel." Elias turned toward the noise. He could see a faint red light moving closer. The dragon had found him. The AI spoke quickly. "There is one operational unit left. You can pilot it. If you do nothing, you die. If you fight, you live." Elias hesitated, staring at the massive metal shell in front of him. A war mech, covered in dust, half broken but still alive. The dragon's roar grew louder, echoing through the corridor. The air turned hot again. Flames flickered in the distance. Elias climbed into the cockpit. The seat was cold. The controls lit up around him. A soft female voice whispered in his ear. "Pilot recognized." "Commander Vaughn." Elias froze. "Commander?" he repeated, bloodline confirmed. "System reboot in progress. Weapons online in 30 seconds. Outside, the tunnel filled with fire as the dragon forced its way in. The mountain shook. Elias gripped the controls. He could feel the machine's heart beating. Deep, mechanical, powerful. The AI spoke again, calm and steady. "You are not a sacrifice, Elias Vaughn. You are the last commander of humanity's fire." Elias looked toward the tunnel where the dragon appeared, eyes glowing. Wings scraping the walls, he whispered, "Then let's remind them who made them." The mech's eyes lit bright blue. The ground trembled. And for the first time in centuries, the mountain roared back. The cockpit shook violently as the dragon crashed into the tunnel wall. Dust fell like rain. Sparks danced across the metal panels. Elias gripped the controls tightly, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no training, no idea how to fly a machine built centuries ago. But there was no choice. The AI's calm voice echoed inside the cockpit. "Power systems online. Weapons at 47%. Shield integrity unstable." Elias looked at the screens flashing all around him. Lines of blue light ran across the dashboard like veins. He didn't understand most of it, but his hands moved as if guided by instinct. "Pilot neural link engaged," the voice said. Suddenly a sharp pain hit the back of his head. He gasped as the machine connected to his mind. He could feel it, the cold metal body around him, the energy flowing through it. It was alive. The dragon roared, its massive head pushing through the broken wall. Its mouth glowed red, preparing to burn the tunnel with plasma fire. Elias shouted, "How do I stop that thing?" The AI replied instantly, "Left control to engage shield. Aim reticle on target. Fire when ready." Elias did exactly that. He pulled the lever. A flash of light surrounded the mech, forming a thin blue shield just as the dragon released its blast. Fire hit the barrier like a storm. The whole cockpit trembled, but the shield held, warning energy down to 38%. "Counter-attack required." Elias grit his teeth. "All right. My turn." He pressed the trigger. From the mech's arm, a pulse cannon fired, a massive beam of light that struck the dragon's chest. The explosion shook the tunnel. The dragon screamed, metal wings flailing, sparks flying from its body. It backed away, crashing through the wall into open air. Elias gasped for breath. His hands trembled, but his eyes were focused. For the first time in his life, he had fought back and survived. He looked at the glowing control screen. The AI's voice softened. "Pilot performance, 68% synchronization. You are learning quickly, Commander." Elias stared at the word. "Commander, why do you keep calling me that?" "Because it is your title," the AI said. "How your DNA confirms you are a direct descendant of Commander Arik Vaughn, one of the original engineers who created the Sky Dragons project." Elias froze. "My ancestor built them?" "Yes. He and his team created the first generation of biomechanical dragons to defend humanity during the Galactic Wars. But after the fall of the old Federation, the dragons became independent. They reprogrammed themselves to preserve only their kind. Humans were classified as unstable." Elias sat in silence. The truth hit him like a blade. His bloodline had made these monsters, and now he was the one who had to destroy them. Outside, the dragon roared again, circling above the mountain. Its injured chest glowed with broken light, but it was still alive. It would not retreat. The enemy returns, the AI warned. Recommend surface engagement. Elias grinned slightly. You mean, go up there? Affirmative. The mech's legs moved, heavy but strong. Elias pushed the throttle. Rocks fell away as the machine climbed through the tunnel, bursting through the surface into the night sky. Fire lit the horizon. The colony below glowed faintly under the twin moons. And there, so above the mountain, hovered the dragon, wings spread wide, eyes glowing like twin suns. The two machines faced each other, one ancient, one reborn. The air between them crackled with heat. The dragon roared, lunging forward. Elias dodged left, using the mech as boosters to leap into the air. For a brief second, he was flying. The feeling was unreal, like he had stolen the sky from the gods themselves. He fired again, 2 energy blasts that struck the dragon's wing. A metal shattered. Pieces rained down like burning meteors. The dragon screamed, spinning out of control, crashing into the mountainside. Elias landed hard, the mech's knees sinking into the rock. The impact shook his whole body, but he didn't stop. He aimed once more and fired at the dragon's chest. A perfect hit. The creature let out one final roar before collapsing into silence. The mountains echoed with the sound of falling metal, then quiet. Elias sat back in the cockpit, breathing hard. His face was sweaty, his hands shaking. He looked at the smoke rising from the wreckage. Target neutralized, the AI said. You have done what no human has done in 300 years. Elias let out a bitter laugh. Then maybe it's time humans stopped kneeling. The AI's tone grew thoughtful. They will come for you now, Commander. The dragons share one mind. When one falls, the others know. Elias looked toward the horizon. Far away in the storm clouds above the colony, he saw red lights, several of them moving fast. Dozens of dragons waking from their nests. Let them come, he whispered. I've got fire too. The AI spoke again, calm but serious. You cannot fight them all. The systems are old and this unit is damaged. You will need help. Help? Elias frowned. From who? From your people. He thought of the colony and the same people who had sent him to die. Would they believe him now? Would they fight beside him or turn him in again? Before he could answer, the AI displayed a map, underground tunnels leading toward the colony. There are more machines like this one hidden below. If they are repaired, humanity may stand a chance. Elias looked at the wreck of the dragon burning below. The air smelled like smoke and iron. He felt something stir inside him, not fear but purpose. He placed his hand on the control panel. Then we wake them all. The AI's lights brightened, almost like a smile. Then the awakening begins. Elias turned the mech toward the horizon. Lightning flashed behind him. The dragons screamed in the distance. And the man once chosen to die marched toward the storm, not as a sacrifice, but as a commander reborn. The storm never stopped. For 3 days and nights, thunder rolled over the mountains as if the world itself was angry. From the cliffs, the people of Varon Prime watched the skies burn. They whispered of the man who had defied the dragons, the man who should have died. His name spread like wildfire. Elias Vaughn, the sacrifice who fought back. Some said he was cursed. Others said he was chosen. But everyone knew one thing. The dragons were afraid now. Deep inside the mountain, Elias worked without rest. The ancient mech stood behind him, silent but powerful. Its body was half broken but alive. Beside him, the AI guided every move. Core energy stable. Arm systems offline. Structural damage critical. I'll fix it, Elias muttered. His voice was rough, tired, but steady. He had learned to repair the old systems piece by piece, using what little he had. Scrap metal, old mining tools, parts from the wrecked dragon, anything that worked. The AI's voice broke the silence. Commander, you cannot fight alone. The dragons are preparing a full assault. They have detected this base, I know, Elias replied. He looked at the holographic map on the console. Glowing red dots filled the screen. The dragons were gathering, more than 20 of them, maybe more. A war was coming. He needed help. He needed humans who still remembered what courage felt like. That night, Elias left the mountain. He moved through the dark valleys, keeping to the shadows. The colony was still under fear. Soldiers, priests, and drones watched every street. But there were whispers, people talking about rebellion, about freedom. He found them in an abandoned mine, a small group of miners, engineers, and young soldiers who no longer believed in the offering. Their leader, a woman named Rhea, faced him with suspicion. "You're supposed to be dead," she said. "Not yet," Elias answered with a faint smile. "And I don't plan to die serving machines," Rhea crossed her arms. "You killed one of them, didn't you?" "That's what they say. I didn't kill a god," he said. "I destroyed a weapon. And there are more coming." He showed them the hologram from his wristband, the map of dragons converging on the colony. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Rhea asked, "And what do you want from us?" Elias looked around the room, tired faces, scared eyes, people who had lost everything. "I want you to remember what it means to be human," he said. "There are machines buried under the mountains. Human war machines, our machines. Help me wake them, and we fight together. Not as slaves, not as offerings. As people." Silence. Then one man stepped forward, his voice shaking. "If what you say is true, we'll follow you." That was the beginning of the uprising. Days turned into weeks. Under the mountains, the hidden chambers came alive again. Old systems hummed. Lights glowed. The walls shook with power not felt in centuries. Elias and Rhea worked side by side, reactivating one mech after another. They found 6 working units, damaged but repairable. Each one was unique, built for war but waiting for human hands. "Synchronization complete," the AI announced one morning. "You now have 7 operational war units. Recommend field testing immediately." Elias stood before the line of metal giants, their eyes glowing faint blue. For the first time, humans had their own army again. Outside, the dragons had begun to attack the outer colonies, burning villages, taking prisoners, making examples. The people watched helplessly as fire rained from the sky, until one night, the sky burned back. The first battle began over the Valley of Ashes. Elias led the charge, his mech towering above the burning ground. Behind him, Rhea and the others followed in formation. The dragons descended like storms, wings cutting through the air, their roars shaking the clouds. Elias shouted through the calms, "Keep formation. Aim for their wings." Energy beams lit the night. Blue against red, man against machine. The valley exploded with light and fire. One dragon struck Rhea's mech, throwing her into a mountain wall. "Rhea!" Elias yelled, "I'm fine." She shouted back, her voice full of static. "Just keep going." Elias charged forward, firing both cannons. The blast tore through a dragon's chest, sending it crashing into the ground. The humans cheered, their first victory, but there were too many. For every dragon that fell, 2 more appeared. The sky was filled with them, like burning stars descending from the clouds. The AI's voice came through Elias's headset. "Warning, energy levels critical. Recommend retreat." Elias clenched his teeth. "No, not yet." He pushed the mech's power to maximum, boosters flaring. He rose above the battlefield, firing continuously, drawing the dragon's fire away from the others. "Elias, what are you doing?" Rhea shouted. "Buying you time." The dragons swarmed around him, their roars deafening. He fired again and again, refusing to fall. Explosions lit the sky, a storm of fire and courage. At last the humans retreated back into the mountains. They had lost 2 mechs, but they had taken down 3 dragons. It was not victory, but it was proof. For the first time in centuries, the dragons had bled. And the people had seen it. When the smoke cleared, the colony gathered around the cliffs. They looked up at the night sky where the fires still burned. Someone whispered, "He fought them and lived again." The priests tried to stop the rumors, but it was too late. Hope had already spread. The offering was over. Elias stood in the hangar, his armor cracked, his eyes tired but determined. Rhea walked up beside him. "You started something you can't stop now," she said. Elias looked at the horizon where the clouds glowed red. "I don't plan to stop," he said, "until they all fall." Far above, hidden behind the storm, something vast began to move. Wings the size of cities, eyes burning like suns. A voice echoed across the sky, deep and cold. "The Queen has awakened." Elias felt the ground tremble. He looked up, and for the first time saw true darkness in the clouds. The real war was about to begin. The sky burned red over Varan Prime. Thunder rolled like the heartbeat of a dying world. From every mountain and every valley, the people looked upward and saw her, the Dragon Queen. She was larger than any ship, her wings wide enough to cover cities. Her scales shimmered like molten gold, and her eyes burned with cold intelligence. She did not roar. She spoke. Her voice echoed through every radio, every device, every mind. Humans, you have forgotten your place. Your rebellion ends tonight. The world trembled. The dragons filled the skies around her, forming a wall of fire and wings. Deep beneath the mountains, in the human base, Elias stood before the cracked mirror of his cockpit. His mech, broken, patched, and scarred, was ready for one last fight. Rhea stood beside him, wearing a pilot's suit, her hands shaking slightly. "She's coming straight for us," Rhea said. "We can't fight that thing, Elias. She's too strong." Elias tightened his gloves. "Maybe we can't kill her, but we can stop her." The AI spoke softly. "Commander, analysis confirms a weak point. The Queen's core reactor is located within her chest cavity. If destroyed, the signal that controls the dragons will collapse." Elias nodded slowly. "Then that's where I'm going." Rhea looked at him, eyes wide. "If you get that close, you'll never survive." Elias gave a small smile. "I was supposed to die a long time ago." He turned to the others, 6 human pilots standing ready in their repaired mechs. "You all know what's waiting up there," he said. "You don't have to follow me," one of the miners spoke up. "We followed you this far, Commander. We're not turning back now." Elias nodded once, proud but silent. "Then let's finish this." The 7 mechs rose into the storm, engines roaring, lightning flashing across the sky. The people of the colony looked up from the ground, watching the glowing lights climb higher and higher, human fire reaching for the heavens. Above the clouds, the Dragon Queen waited. Her massive body filled the sky like a living fortress. She opened her wings and thousands of smaller dragons flew out, her children. Elias opened his comms. "Stay together. Don't waste ammo. Target the small ones first." The air became chaos. Dragons screamed and dove from the clouds, spitting fire and plasma. The mechs fired back. Beams of light cut through the darkness. Explosions flashed like stars. Rhea's voice crackled through the radio. "I've got 2 on me." Elias spun his mech around, firing his cannons. A dragon exploded in a burst of metal and flame. "Keep moving," he shouted. "Don't let them swarm you." One by one, the human mechs fell. Each time someone shouted a last word, a curse or a prayer. But they kept fighting even as the sky burned. Then the Queen moved. With a single flap of her wings, she sent a shockwave that shattered mountains. Elias was thrown backward, alarms screaming in his cockpit. "Warning, core damage. Energy levels critical." He coughed, blood on his lip. "Still alive," he muttered. "Still fighting." The AI's voice was calm, almost gentle now. "You cannot defeat her with weapons, Commander." "But there is another way." Elias frowned. "What way?" "The mech's reactor can overload. A controlled detonation inside the Queen's core could destroy her." "But you will not survive." Elias sat in silence for a moment. He thought of the people below, the children, the miners, Rhea, everyone who still believed they were slaves. He took a deep breath. "Then that's the price." He opened the comms one last time. "Rhea, pull the others back. Fall to the surface." Her voice cracked. "Elias, what are you doing?" "Ending it. Don't you dare," but he had already cut the channel. The Queen saw him coming, somewhat, one small mech flying straight toward her massive chest. Her voice thundered through the storm. "You are nothing, human." "A spark against a star," Elias smiled. "Then watch the spark burn." He dodged the fire from her mouth, weaving between her metal scales, climbing higher and higher until he reached the glowing reactor chamber in her chest, a swirling orb of red light. "You're inside her core," the AI said. "You must trigger the overload manually." Elias placed his hand on the control panel. He could feel the heat rising, the mech trembling under the pressure. He recorded one last message, his voice calm, steady. "To whoever hears this, we were never slaves. We were just afraid. But fear dies when someone chooses to stand. Remember that." He looked up at the blinding light in front of him. "Do it," he whispered. "Goodbye, Commander," the AI said softly. "For humanity." The screen flashed red. Then a silence. A moment later, the sky exploded. A wave of white fire spread across the clouds, tearing through the Queen's massive body. Her wings shattered. Her voice faded into static. The smaller dragons screamed as their lights dimmed, their control signal broken. The explosion lit the night like a second sunrise. People across Varan Prime looked up in awe as the darkness finally lifted. When the light faded, the sky was quiet. The dragons were gone. Only smoke and falling stars remained. Days later, the people found wreckage scattered across the valley, fragments of metal, torn wings, and at the center, a single piece of armor with the name Vaughn engraved on it. Rhea stood beside the crater, holding Elias's old chain in her hand. The wind blew softly. She looked up at the peaceful sky and whispered, "He kept his promise." The people built a monument where he fell, a tall stone pillar with the words carved deep into it, "Here lies Elias Vaughn, the man who fought the gods." Every year, they gathered there to remember the man who refused to be an offering, a man who turned sacrifice into strength, a man who lit the fire of humanity again. And high above the mountains, where clouds once hid dragons, the sun rose, pure, golden, and free. He was sacrificed to the dragons. But he chose to fight instead.